Hello and welcome back to Simply Biology. In today's video we're going to be studying the heart. We're going to be looking at the internal and the external structures of the heart. We're also going to be looking at some important structural points, and we're going to be looking at the cardiac muscle as a whole. So without further ado, let's get started. So on this slide you can see that I've made a very simplified version of the heart. And just before we start, it's important to note that the right side and the left side are switched over. So it's just like you're looking at the heart within someone's chest. So we'll go through these abbreviations. So the R, A, L, A, R, V, L, V stand for right atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. So the atrium are always at the top, the ventricles are at the bottom. So the heart is a highly muscular pump. The walls of the ventricles are thicker and the walls of the atrium are thinner. The coronary artery runs diagonally across the surface of the heart. So, some important structural points you need to be aware of. So as I just said, the two atria are located at the top, while the two ventricles are located at the bottom. The walls of the atria are thin, while the walls of the ventricles are thicker. This is because the ventricles need to pump blood either to the lungs through the right ventricle or the rest of the body through the left ventricle, whereas the atria simply just need to pump blood from the atria to the ventricles. So as you can see, this is a very small distance, whereas the ventricles need to pump it over larger distances, and therefore they require a thick muscular wall in order to generate all that force and pressure to pump the blood all around the body. So as I've said, the left and the right ventricle are divided by a wall known as the septum, and this is when someone suffers from a hole in the heart, they usually have a hole in their septum. The left ventricle wall is thicker since blood must be pumped all around the body through the left ventricle and through what's known as the aorta or the aortic arch, whereas the pulmonary vein brings oxygenated blood to the right atria. Between the atria and the ventricles, there are what's known as atrioventricular valves, and this is used to prevent the backflow of blood. So within veins, because veins usually carry deoxygenated blood around the body, they often have valves to prevent backflow. However, as arteries carry oxygenated blood, this blood is always usually under high pressure, and therefore no veins are needed. We're going to now look at the cardiac muscle. So unlike any other muscles, the heart does not tire and it contracts regularly, repeatedly. It's what's known as myogenic. It has its own intrinsic beat and will continue to contract. Cardiac hypertrophy is a process whereby the heart muscle is strengthened through exercise and it gets more efficient at pumping blood around the body, so stroke volume increases and therefore heart rate decreases. We'll cover this in a later video, but stroke volume is simply just the volume of blood pumped out of the left atria per beat. So therefore, if more blood is getting pumped out of the atria per beat, the heart does not have to pump as regularly in order to pump the same volume of blood out of the heart. And that volume of blood pumped out of the heart per minute is what's known as cardiac output. Finally, we have some factors affecting heart rate, which include age. So the older you are, the slower your heart rate is generally. Your diet, there's been evidence recently linking diet to a healthy heart. Lifestyle, if you have a very sedentary lifestyle, you'll often have a very high heart rate, whereas you see athletes have a lower heart rate, about 40 beats per minute. Smoking can affect the signals of the heart, and therefore it can cause your heart to increase, especially through nicotine, which is a substance within smoke. And then inheritance. Your genetics can play a role in your heart rate, as some people can have a very fast heart rate, whereas some can inherit a very slow heart rate. Thank you for listening to this video, and I hope you have enjoyed it all about the heart. I hope you've learned all about the factors which affect heart rate, the structure of the internal and the external of components of the heart, and I hope, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye.